Hello and welcome to the Back of the Nest Match Report. I'm your host Chris Hambling and I'm here to guide you through our look back at a comfortable 2-0 FA Cup victory for Palace against League Two Hartlepool United. 2 early goals ended the game as a contest as Michael Elise once again shone for Palace and some excellent goalkeeping and wasteful finishing kept the score down. On a day when everybody seemed glad to have you on board this week. Nick did a wonderful job hosting last week. I haven't listened to it, but I assume you did because I didn't get any complaints. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was all right. I'm just sick of sounding like a 70s tunes advert with these sinuses that I've had ever since I gave up smoking.
Well, I think you've probably had those sinuses your whole life, I would say.
You know what I mean. No, it's just weird, isn't it? You give up smoking for health reasons and then you can't bloody breathe. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it was good. It was me and Chris last week, wasn't it? So, yeah, lots of swearing. I think we got away with it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't checking up on you. I've been a busy man, you know. Anyway, hi, Caragh.
Hi, how's it going?
It's all right. Yeah, we were struggling, weren't we? With you asked a question about Hartlepool pre-show. I think it's important we get this sorted out now, right?
Well, to be fair, I think it was producer Sam.
Oh no, you're right. It was Sam who asked the question, and yeah,
I just suggested that we mispronounce it all the way through the show.
That's right. Yeah, it was that way around. Yeah. So
if you do want to crack on and call it Hartlepool for the rest of the pod, no one will judge you.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to. It was a question. My partner's American, and when she asked who Palace were playing this week, when I said that the game was on, and I said I said it's an FA Cup game. It's a team you won't have heard of. So she looked it up and said, "Who's Hartlepool?" I did really enjoy that, and now I'm with the question that Sam asked, I'm starting to wonder why it isn't Hartlepool. So.
I'll tell you what would be better though, if Marylebone had a football team, we could really have some fun with pronouncing that one.
Well, the two would be great if they played together. Marylebone versus Hartlepool.
I've still got an issue with Kansas and Arkansas, but we won't go down that road.
I was not clear if that's on the pronunciation or other things.
I genuinely... Was it you who actually said this the other week, or was it somebody else? I can't remember. I've got no idea anymore about who says what, because I've got old. I don't know who says what about anything anymore. But it was only when I heard it a few weeks ago, somebody mentioning about Arkansas, that I realised that Arkansas was Arkansas, that they were different places. They weren't two different places. And
you sounded like you were from Manchester there when you said Arkansas.
Arkansas. Yeah, I went down to Arkansas. Anyway.
Before you move on, just very quickly, producer Sam showed a very lovely Peter Taylor era Crystal Palace baby grow, and it is a thing of beauty. I want a giant one to wear like George Dawes does in Shooting Stars.
What an up-to-date reference that is. Producer Sam is lurking in the background today. Oh, he must be literally minutes from dropping a child, which is incredible work. We're all very proud of you right now.
Thanks.
No worries at all.
Minutes, 70-something days. We're not. Who's counting?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I don't really understand how it all works. I have pets, although you have obviously pets as well, and it will be fun watching the child fight for attention amongst cats. But
I don't wish to worry you, Sam, but I was 2 months premature, so it could be 16 days.
I was 2 weeks late, so it could be even longer.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, I was premature. I can't remember how long by, but it was quite a lot. I was a very, very small baby with a big appetite. Anyway, let's move swiftly on. News this week, the under-18s and the under-23s both playing and beating Spurs. The under-18s, a hat-trick from Ademola Ode Adebomi and Victor Akinwale with a single goal as they beat the Spurs side 4-2. And the hat-trick was completed in the last minute from Ola Adebomi. Really just a player that stands out for me just because of his physicality. Gives defenders a real torrid time. Really good on the ball, very strong, very powerful player. Akinwale has been doing great at that level, and after events today, might get a look in at 23s as well. What with Rough Street going out on loan and a couple of injuries and things popping up in the 23s, so he might be making a step up. But we're looking very good in that department. fantastic win. Didn't see the 18s myself, but I did watch the 23s today at the time of recording, of course. And it was an absolutely superb performance. Could have scored more, really. It was quite an end-to-end game. There was some quality on display from Spurs, but Palace were comfortable winners, and rightly so in the end. And absolute flying start. The ball was on sort of basically bobbling around on the edge of the box and found its way to Scott Banks in the kind of left channel of the penalty area. And as it bobbled up, he just hit it straight away on the half volley and smashed it into net. It was past the keeper before we could react. And he thought, what a great finish from him. And then moments later, he got an opportunity from a free kick, and he is just absolutely deadly from free kicks, direct free kicks. You don't want to compare him to Ratface at Southampton, but it's that level of certainty sometimes when he steps up, and you just think he's quite central, good distance out. He can put it wherever he wants in that goal, and he's going to score. And he did. It was a fantastic free kick. Go on, Nick, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just looking at the under 23 P2 table. We've moved above Man United now, up in 5th place, up on 28 points. So I don't think Manchester City are going to be caught. They're 11 points ahead of us. But considering, we're only just starting on our new academy journey, it's pretty darn good.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the 18s usually, been a good group. The previous year, we obviously did fantastically well, doing really well again this year. But the 23s tends to be the kind of time where, week to week, you don't know what players you're going to have. You might be putting some in from the first team squad to get them fit, all that kind of stuff. And usually, our 23s, our reserves, if you like, do tend to struggle. But under Paddy, they're a really good unit, and there's a lot of players who are playing above age level in the 23s and just doing tremendously well. And I've got to say, it was a Banks free kick again that led to Raksaki being able to tap in later on as well. But Nia Kirby, one of those who was tipped for big things and hasn't really kicked on tremendously, but he's actually starting to show some really good skill and really good. He probably should be more involved in the games than he is, and he was very involved today, and a really good finish from good work by Raksaki. And it was just a really good game to watch. That was an exciting bunch of talent there, and obviously Taya Adamoda we'll talk about in a bit after he made his debut in the game against Hartlepool. But some really, really strong performances there. And Raksaki was one who very nearly went out on loan, and it was Vieira who decided to keep him, which just shows you how highly and how well regarded he is. And you do think and you do hope that he'll get some opportunities at first team level before the end of the season again, just to get a few minutes here and there and kick on, because to turn down a loan, to turn down regular football, it really does point to the fact that we actually feel that we need him here. Some bad news. We're not too sure what, Nick, but it looks like Nathan Ferguson has picked up another injury. Some suggestions that it's a hamstring. Obviously, didn't see him in the cup game, and it's a long way back from being out injured for 2 years. We've seen it with other players in the past, and this is hopefully just a small setback.
Well, hamstring isn't really a small setback. That's what I've seen on the Twitter. But looking at other forums, they don't seem to know what it is. It could be anything. It could be COVID, couldn't it? But it's just, you just want to see him play. I mean, we're going back to the time when we were on Love Sport that we signed him. That's how long ago it was. Incidentally, in the men's losing to Homestead, I don't really go to Homestead, but I think it's in the cup. They were still advertising the Crystal Palace fan show on Love Sport in one of them little frames above the urinals.
Were they really? I mean, Love Sport doesn't even exist, let alone the show that we did on there. But yeah, we did pop on 5 Live, didn't we? Is it 5 Live?
Yes.
No, BBC London. I've got ahead of myself. Just It'll be 5 Live next, obviously, but that's just where Aaron keeps popping up on 5 Live. But no, we did the BBC London. We did the fan show there, and hopefully get an opportunity to do that again sometime soon. But keep your eyes out for that. And finally, it's obviously worth mentioning that a Palace player has won a major international tournament, and that, of course, is Cheikh Kouyaté. His Senegal side have won the AFCON, beating Egypt on penalties. From what I've read, very well deserved. Didn't watch any of it, unfortunately, myself, but I know you two did. And Caragh, I'll start with you. what was the game like, and how made up are you for Jake?
Yeah, well, so I was a bit confused when I first put it on because you would have been forgiven for thinking the game was actually Man AFC versus Salah FC, according to the commentary, which was extremely frustrating. There were more than just those two players on the pitch. And even when, started quite excitingly with that penalty to Senegal early on, which Mane took very nervously and was obviously saved. And even after that, all they could talk about was Mane and Salah. It was so frustrating. However, I think that kind of nervy penalty was pretty much how the rest of the game went as a whole. It was quite a kind of one of those classic anti-climax finals, I think, where it was a bit nervy, a bit cagey. Senegal were definitely the better team overall, but just didn't take the opportunities that they had mostly early on. But yeah, my watching of the game was interrupted a little bit when Boreham Wood went ahead against Bournemouth in the FA Cup, and I was trying to watch both at the same time because that one was way more exciting. But then obviously it went to penalties, and Senegal came out, and the celebrations were just like incredible. I was nearly in tears watching them because you could just see like the dancing, just what it meant to them, and shout out to their captain. There was some kind of negotiation that went on where I think the organisers wanted the trophy to be lifted with these kind of corporate suits up in the stand, and so he agreed to walk up there, say hello to them, and then brought the trophy back down to the players to lift all together, which was a perfect move from him. But yeah, I'm just going to quote DR. Really, it's the Vieira effect, isn't it? We've got a continental champion in our midst, and that's what Vieira as a manager can do.
Just a bit upset that we're in a position now where we're starting to quote DR on the podcast. I don't know if I can handle that. Nick, at which point, directly after Caragh said that it was a cagey match, did you want to interrupt and mention Kagiso Dikochoy?
I didn't.
You didn't? You are slipping, my friend. I thought a second you heard cagey...
However, I have got one eye on the snowboarding on the Winter Olympics highlights, so I may have missed some of what Caragh was saying. But yeah,
unbelievable.
KG, he used to play
make it more interesting next time.
He scored a brilliant goal against Charlton, didn't he? You can edit that in, Sam. Yeah. No, it was an interesting match. Lots of fouls for the Egyptians, I must say, but they had a fair old go at it. But weren't quite good enough to beat the Senegalese. It was good to see Czech. Shame he wasn't captain like he was during the last AFCON Championships, because it would be nice to see him lift the trophy. But yes, as Caragh did say, the whole bizarre going up to the suits and then coming back down again was very, very strange indeed.
I don't know what
Patrick showed a clip of the Open Tour, but it looked more like they were on a train than a bus. Just saw a roof. And the people in the Senegalese capital were going absolutely doolally. So fair play to them.
I'm going to listen back to this because at one point there, you just gave me really strong Uncle Albert vibes, and I don't know why.
I don't know if it's the sinuses.
I think it might be the sinuses. Yeah.
Are we talking about Curly or Only Fools and Horses?
Only Fools and Horses, definitely not Curly. I never refer to him as Uncle Albert, and I never will. In spite of his insistence. Anyway, should we move on?
Called Auntie.
Well, whatever he feels on whatever day is fine with me. He has my full support. Anyway, shall we talk a little bit about the game? Unfortunately, didn't get to go myself, as is still the way. But I'm targeting a couple of games. I reckon I'm going to do Southampton away in a couple of months, possibly even Watford at home. Maybe those are what I'm thinking about. So I'm definitely going to get to a couple of games before the end of the season.
Picking the quality matches there, Chris. I must say.
Well, exactly. I just want to, you know.
You just want to see Roy, don't you?
I do. I miss him. I miss him so much. But yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Now I'm like, okay, maybe not Watford game. So, excuse me. But so I didn't get to experience, other than via social media and from speaking to people, the kind of occasion of the day, because obviously there was a bit of focus on Hartlepool fans, the fact that they'd had their travel subsidised by the club, which was absolutely fantastic, amongst many other things that the club had done. And I suppose that's probably where I want to start before I jump too far into the game. And that's obviously, hopefully everyone's seen it, but the club did a really wonderful thing, which was then made even more wonderful by the Palace fans' reactions to it, and that is they highlighted Hartlepool manager Graham Lee's wife's struggles. She's got a rare form of brain cancer, I believe, and is doing some experimental treatment. And the cost of that experimental treatment, which has done really well, she was given a year to live, but I think over the last 12 months, there's been no worsening of her condition on this experimental medication. But it costs 60 grand a year, which is a hell of a lot of money. And I think at the last look, it was over 70k on that fundraiser since the Palace website had the club had donated £1,000, I think it was, and then they highlighted it, and then the Palace fans, as Palace fans often do, we just sort of pile in on that stuff, and it's just been really special to watch, and quite humbling in a lot of ways to see something like that happen and what it meant to people. So it gave a really nice kind of talking point in the run up to the game. And I suppose in a way, I don't know how you feel about it, guys, but it kind of felt almost like it rendered the game unimportant in the end when you saw something like that happen. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously it's important that we go through and get to Wembley, so we can enjoy a day out again. But no, it just shows you, it puts everything in perspective. I don't know who the mystery donor was who donated £12,000 to the account. There have been some rumours it might be John Texter, but no, we've made friends for life now with Hartlepool, and I think Palace fans are going to be looking out for Hartlepool or the Monkey Hangers results for a while, and vice versa. And I think we've got a much better relationship than perhaps Leicester City and Nottingham Forest have after this weekend.
Yeah, good point. About yourself, Caragh, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think what it felt like to me was two clubs whose fan bases, come from, well, literally opposite ends of the country, but clearly our club means very similar things to us, and our kind of community aspect of our clubs are really important to us. And so I think, like you say, that is in a good way, typical Palace, isn't it? To jump on that and to make sure that it goes as far as it can go. I think the only kind of, and this is outside of that specific example, but I think I always see these things and think I wish that we lived in a world or a country or a place where people didn't have to fundraise for healthcare, like when it's a matter of life or death, and we see all of this money swishing around that gets wasted on lots of wasteful things. What a shame it is that it's left down to kind of people putting hands in their pockets to pay for healthcare when it really could just be sorted as it should be. So that's my only reflection on the healthcare side of it. But I think any kind of community kind of coming together to support somebody that they've never met is always a very special thing, and always does pull people together.
Yeah, definitely. It was it's something that makes me feel an awful lot of pride in the club. But you're right, we can focus on the fact that I mean I dare say the 60 grand per year could have been spent on maybe, I don't know, some kind of work event at political level. Might have probably cost about that to organise. So
cheese and wine, hamburger,
some cheese and wine, maybe, especially if you get certain types of cheese and certain types of wine. It probably would cost about that much. And I suppose that's something that we can all reflect on, isn't it? But look, it was a fantastic thing. It was there's always a lot of subtext and side conversations going on around sport and football in particular, and it's really nice when it's a positive one, and it's even nicer when it involves your club. But I hope it shows the way to others. I hope I'm not saying Palace are the first club to ever do something decent and help the away club, and given it wasn't a televised game, it obviously wasn't going to get a tremendous amount of money to go Hartlepool's way or anything like that. So giving them something else to hold on to, and giving them a fun day out, I think that's a really nice thing, and it makes us look pretty good. Go on, Nick, just before
just lastly on that, it shows what a community club we are as well. I mean, I know we've got a battered old stadium. We don't feel that corporate. We're not all Billy Big Bollocks like some teams are. You go to other stadiums, it's all corporate, it's all about getting money from abroad, but we're still a community club with our stadium in the middle of houses, not in some park or, so I think we maintain that community spirit, and that goes across. I mean, I saw Hartlepool a couple of years ago playing Bromley in the National League, so,
Yeah. No, exactly. But let's talk a little bit about the cup run. And you've cheekily asked Nick whether Patrick should be buying his flights to get over here for the trip to Wembley. But we've drawn Stoke in the next round, obviously, which again
that was obvious, wasn't it? I thought, well, it's obvious we're going to get them, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Sorry.
I feel like
there is a complaint on that draw, though. One complaint I've seen so far from Chris Clark, because he wanted the away match because the pubs are great in Stoke, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if his instant thought about every situation wasn't about the pubs, wouldn't it? But that's old Clarky for us. That's where his brain goes.
It was almost like you left a gap there for some sort of sound effect to be put in after you said that's our Clarky for us.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get that going as a catchphrase. Don't you think it's a good one? That's our Clarky, and then there's some kind of musical interlude.
Sam, needs a jingle. It needs a jingle.
It does, Sam. If you've got time, can you get some kind of a? It needs to be kind of a wah, 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 kind of a jingle, really.
70-something days, we've been told. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly. You got ages. Yeah. Fine, excellent.
Wah,
if you don't,
wah.
Yeah, that was it.
Babies don't sound like that.
They certainly don't. But look, it's a good start to a cup run, isn't it? I mean, obviously we've only played 2 games, and we've played those games against opposition we would have felt that we should be beating in Millwall and Hartlepool, and we should obviously feel like we should be beating Stoke as well. So yes, now it's the time to start dreaming of the cup run. What I will say, and I'll let you comment on this, is I like the fact that Patrick Vieira is clearly treating the FA Cup with the importance that it deserves. It's a trophy he has won himself, I believe, and will want to win as a manager. And why shouldn't Palace, given the talent that we've got, the standard of performance that we've produced more often than not under him, it's not that many bad games this season, and we've had a lot of bad luck as well. Why shouldn't we be thinking about a knockout tournament where game to game it's just about the result on the day? Why shouldn't we be thinking about winning the trophy? I think it's absolutely within our capability to do so. So Nick, you're off mute, so I'm going to ask you first. Thoughts? Am I getting ahead of myself? Should I shut up?
No, you can tell by the lineup. It was a very, very strong lineup. He means business. A few people around me were saying, well, why aren't we starting the likes of Raksaki? Why, he hasn't put out on loan. We really thought that this would be his opportunity. As it was, Teo got a kind of cameo performance towards the end. But we mean business, and it's just so nice to have a manager that wants to win stuff. So that's good. I was wondering earlier, though, do Stoke fans say, I wonder if they could hack a rainy Wednesday night at Selhurst Park? Because, everybody says about Stoke, but who do they talk about?
That's a good point. Any Hartlepool fans? Caragh, I'm not going to, unless you specifically have something to say, I wasn't going to say I wouldn't necessarily ask your opinion on that as well, because we're speculating clearly, but I did just have one thing on the chances of us going to Wembley. So before the Euros, I booked my flights to go to Ireland for the summer, and I thought, there's no way we're going to make the first final of my lifetime. I'm going to book my flights before the Euros final. Mm-hmm. And of course, that then meant that I was in Ireland while England were playing in the Euros final. In May or June, I'm due to move to Ireland. So my plan is, if I book my flights before the FA Cup final, that definitely means that we're going to make the FA Cup final. Yeah, you've got to make that sacrifice. I think it's the right thing to do. It's worth the 60 quid, I think. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. All right, fantastic. So let's talk about the match. I mean, I always like to start with the lineup, of course. And for me, the cup changes, so to speak, were Butland, obviously the cup goalkeeper, started a couple of games in the Premier League as well, but I still feel that he is the second choice goalkeeper, and rightly starting in the cup. It's a common practice now, and I think he's earned the right to do that despite the error against Millwall, and had a nice solid game. I thought Kelly's first appearance of the season, I believe, centre back was an interesting one, and another absolutely solid display from him. Nice to see him talk after the game and basically say that whenever you need me, I'm here to give my best, and he put in a really good solid performance. And I think it's interesting now. I think of Luca as a cup selection. He's no longer an automatic starter as club captain. It shows you really how far his form has dropped, I think. I still consider him a cup option. And Mateta, I suppose, is arguably a cup selection as well, although he has really been sharing that spot of late with Benteke. And we'll talk about the sub appearances in a bit. But that was, in terms of the selection, really strong lineup, other than maybe those changes that wouldn't have happened in a league game. Nick?
In terms of Kelly and his comments about, I'm ready when you want me, he could have been off to another club, couldn't he, to get regular first-team appearances. But it shows what the atmosphere must be like in the camp for him to be happy to stay and maybe grab his chance, because it'd be easy for him to go to a championship side and get regular games out of thought.
Yeah, I guess he's probably had opportunities, and it certainly would have been something where he could have said to an agent, hey, I really want to be playing football right now. I dare say he's not tremendously happy that he doesn't start more regularly than he does, but you do need players like him who are reliable, who are there whenever you need them, and they never let you down. And my experience of watching Kelly in a Palace shirt is that he is that player. He doesn't let you down. The only time he actually seems to slip in terms of his standard is if you play him for more than 5 consecutive games, and then then something out of nowhere happens, and you just think, oh, okay, that's why you don't play every week. But
yeah,
he seems to have a 5-game limit, and then you need to hide him for about another 10.
4 years.
4 years, yeah. But no, I mean, I'm mucking about. Fantastic player for us, and I really value having there as an option. Can play anywhere across that back four, and has done some fantastic things in the Palace shirt.
And it'll be keeping players like him in the squad as a whole that will be really helping these younger players that are coming in as well, won't it? That experience that he's got, and a lot of the contribution that he's making at the moment is probably stuff that we just don't see that's on the training pitch. That's just as somebody to kind of be around those younger players. I think that aspect in a football club is something we don't talk about massively often, but it must make a huge difference to those young players, especially the amount of young players that we've got coming through as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and there is no substitute for experience, and having somebody like Kelly around, he has played for England, which is something that people might forget. Came through at a really big club, would have learned a lot from that experience, and he's probably a manager's dream as well to have about in terms of the versatility he has. But you're absolutely right. I'm sure the young players, especially the young defenders, really do value his presence for sure.
I'd imagine he's looking further forward to his career as well. If he's sort of taking that role in coaching and nurturing, that's going to stand him in good stead when his legs get knackered.
Yeah, exactly. And but maybe not playing quite so much. Might be one of those players who plays long into his 30s as a centre back. He's certainly never one who's relied on pace or anything like that. So I think there's a good few years left in Martin Kelly yet. But we'll see. But yeah, look, I mean, in terms of the other performances, I don't think there's too much of note really to talk about. I think the outstanding players from the game. We'll talk about Michael Elise, who was just sensational. But I think other than that, I thought Mateta had a really good game. I thought Luca was decent, and people might argue that against League Two opposition he should be. And obviously his lack of pace wasn't particularly exposed or anything like that. But I actually really liked Mateta. I thought he had a really good game, and you might describe some of his finishing as a little wasteful, but I also think he was a touch unlucky at times as well. I thought really good performance from him. So I've got no complaints about that lineup. I thought it was well balanced. I think the changes were good. I think opportunities were created for some players, which was great. Nobody was pushed too hard. And obviously a sub appearance for Teo Adaramola, a young left back coming through, very attacking left back. And it'd be interesting to see if he can really push on and emerge as the kind of, the backup to Tyreek Mitchell. That's the target for him, because I look at our left back position and I think Klein can play there, Ward can play there, but they're not natural places for them to play. Schlupp can play there, and Riedewald has done a job there, but there's no out and out left back really to stand in as deputy for Mitchell. So that to me is an open place in the squad. So if he can really kick on, and he wasn't far from a goal with his first touch, to be honest. And it was really nice to see him so forward thinking. But we'll have to see what he's like defensively and what opportunities he gets. But good solid game for the 23s today as well. So that was very interesting. But moving on from that, let's talk about the first goal. Obviously, the goals came very, very early. We're absolutely decisive in the game. I don't feel that, after the second went in, there was really any doubt over where the game was going to go. I think that the first goal was extremely important. Obviously, won a free kick on the right-hand side. Elise was the one who took it. And it's left-footed from the right side, so it's if you've got a player who can take the free kick on the wrong side, if you like, and swing it into the goal with accuracy, it's a fantastic tool to have. That's a ball that for players who aren't great in terms of their dead ball delivery, it's a ball that 9 times out of 10 the keeper just comes and catches. But if you put that with the right pace, the right whip, the right dip on it, and the right distance from the goalkeeper, it's very tough to defend, especially if the defence is coming from deep and clearing out, which is what Hartlepool were doing. And it just enabled Mark Gay to kind of time his run. Didn't even have to time it that well, to be honest. Just basically had to walk into the right spot. And it was a lovely finish, but the ball was superb. It just looked a really simple goal, and you could point fingers at the defence, but the execution was absolutely superb. And Caragh, I'll let you comment on the goal itself and how early it happened and what that meant in the game.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think I was really nervous before the game started. I just all of a sudden got this like, oh no, we're going out to Hartlepool, aren't we? So I think I was just being, I don't think that was a common thing, but I was really, really jittery. And so for anyone who was feeling the same as me, to get a goal early on and to see that, Hartlepool weren't really lining up with much of a kind of game plan with how they could prevent our goals going in or pick us apart in any way, really. So I think that settled my nerves really early on. Not that that's important because I wasn't on the pitch, but it made it a much nicer experience for me. And I think even with the second goal as well, I think what it gave us the opportunity to see is what these players can do when things go their way. And I appreciate that, we'll go back to the Premier League and we are going to have much tougher opposition, but it's still really nice, I think, from a fan's point of view, to be like, okay, what is the pinnacle of what they can do? And now it's just working out how we can do that against tougher opposition. So it felt really good. It was a really getting a goal early on anytime is going to be great, isn't it? But seeing the class with which it happened, and it wasn't a kind of messy one, it was a real kind of nice, stylish one, just set the tone, I think, for the rest of the game.
It's interesting. It might have been on last week's pod or a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Palace not coming out the blocks enough and Vieira sizing up the opposition before making any tactical changes that might be needed. But we actually went at the opposition. Okay, it's League Two, but in the past we've let the opposition come to us, so it's good to come out of the blocks really quickly. Also, you've got to bear in mind that when that game was being played, West Ham were on the verge of being knocked out by Kidderminster Harriers, and Chelsea not so much against Plymouth. So there was that jittery nervousness. That said, when the goal went in, I think we did think we'd get a hatful. That didn't quite happen, but there you go.
No, and but then again, it very much could have done. On another day, there's 4 or 5 chances that really could have gone in, you have to say. But prior to that happening, we got that early goal. But a little bit of an old defensive vulnerability, which seems to happen no matter who's in the team. Just at that back post, particularly back post on our right, if you like, which it tends to be an area that we get that gets exposed regularly. And it did happen, and this time it was a deep cross into that back post, and Ferguson, who I think's on loan there, if I think I'm right in saying, on loan at Hartlepool, maybe from Newcastle or somebody like that. He got a good header in, and really important save from Jack Butland at that moment. You can't really say, on reflection, you look at it and you think the header from that angle is very difficult to score, but 2 strong hands behind it pushed it away and could have really taken the game in a different direction at that moment.
Very quickly on Jack Butland, I don't know how long Vincento's been with us, hasn't really got a chance. Butland got his chance at Brighton, and it was so good to see so soon after his Millwall debacle, or debacle, if I say in Hartlepool. And so it's good that the fans have forgiven him and not made him a scapegoat. So yeah, Jackie Butland. Who'd have thought, eh?
We saw it at the end of the Millwall game, even though, didn't we? I think him coming over and making that really kind of obvious apology to the fans, I think that really bought him some time. And then fair play to him, every time he's played since, you can really see that he's knuckling down. And every goalkeeper's going to make mistakes, but I think he really wants to do a job for the club, and he really wants to do a job for the fans. So I think you're right, Nick. I think it's nice to see that kind of support for someone who's made a mistake, rather than, like you say, scapegoating him.
Yeah, and we know how good he was, and then he basically fell off a cliff in terms of his form for a long time at Stoke, and I think a lot of people were very surprised at that. And it is a new start for him at Palace. I really do rate him, and 29 is still very young for a goalkeeper in a lot of ways. He's got 6 years on Guaita. So, but I will say, Nick, I think the main reason for the fact that Vicente doesn't have a song is that he did have a song, but people pronounce his name so incorrectly that it never really caught on. It was Mbamba, wasn't it? And they called him Vincent Guaita. And if you're going to mispronounce a player's name that badly, you deserve your song to die and be forgotten about by pretty much everybody, apart from me, who was so offended by it that it will never leave me.
See, I'd have just got VG. And then everybody could be included.
Thanks, Nick.
We've got to put that on loop. Please, can we put that on a loop?
No, don't. Maybe we can play that after the Chris Clark gap. There's no reason.
Anyway, shall we? Move on.
I really have. You need to be on the show more often.
Yeah.
Just one thing on Butland that I noticed earlier, which I thought was a little bit mean, on the Palace's official Instagram. So they've posted pictures, photos of last time we played Stoke, and one of them's Wilf scoring against Butland, and I was like, "Oh, come on! You could have left that one off, didn't you?" That's a bit mean.
It's not too dissimilar to the fact that whilst Hennessy was with us, every now and then you'd just get the Butterfield hat trick, and everyone would just go, "Oh, look at who's in."
Hennessy deserved it, though.
Yeah, exactly right. So right. Anyway, back to what I was about to talk about. So that was obviously a key moment in the game for me. Probably the one key moment in the game. The one moment where Hartlepool may have got back into things, but Butland saved us, and on we went. It wasn't too much longer that Dio's friend Timmy Adesina had a moment to forget as sort of a bit of a loose ball. Gallagher pounced on it and knocked it out to Elise. And to be fair to Adesina, it was a fantastic first touch from Elise as he kind of flicked it from behind him forwards, and it's I've been there as a defender at obviously a terrible level, a far lower level than these guys operate at, and it's one of those moments where you don't quite know what to do. The ball's at the wrong height. Do you go, do you hook it behind you? Do you kick it out? Do you head it down. It's a horrible height. It's a horrible moment of indecision. And all of a sudden, before he's even had a chance to make his mind up, Elise has passed him. And just an absolutely superb finish. It really highlighted the quality that Michael Elise has, and the reason why we're getting probably more and more excited about him. He's starting to kick on. If you go back to last season, the way that Eze started and how he just got better and better and better, we're starting to see that with Elise, and it's very, very exciting.
I think as well what that goal showed is just how we're seeing him build in kind of being more determined. Like he sees what he wants to do and now he's really attacking it and just going for it and making it happen. Whereas I think those early games, we saw that nervousness, didn't we? And we saw that he was kind of trying things, but maybe wasn't quite sure. And I think that's just a credit to him, obviously, like his talent and how hard he's working, but also credit to Vieira and the club for how they're developing him and how they're giving him that time as well to kind of produce this kind of stuff. And I think I can't see anything else happen apart from him just getting more and more confident from here on. And that is very exciting, especially for when we reach the FA Cup final. Definitely,
and you're absolutely right. I'm sure as he scores a hat-trick in that game for us to take the trophy, we'll be waxing lyrical further. He got a 10 out of 10 on whoscored.com, Nick. Does that doesn't happen, right? 10 out of 10?
Never happens. Never seen it before. And he's just like, so what, I scored. That's his celebration. Come on then, kick off. Let's keep going. It's like his signature celebration. Yeah, the only time he actually celebrated, I was discussing this with my son Will, was the goal against Man City. And he just did a little skip. That was it. That's the most he's celebrated.
I'm sure there's joy going on inside there somewhere.
He's so talented. Yeah. And we'll see a lot more of it. Well, my worry is we've got a lot more to see from him, but will we see it from him at Palace? And I think a lot of that is going to tie in with how long we can keep Patrick Vieira with us.
Yeah, I don't feel particularly worried about that, but I'm hoping we've got a good couple of seasons. We get these players in on long contracts, and we see what they do. It's I think he's he's going to be an ambitious lad, but I think that the squad that we have now and that we've put together, if we keep going the way that we're going with the trajectory I feel we've got, I don't see any real danger of that breaking up. I might be famous last words, but I feel it's a squad that can grow together and really start challenging in the top half of the table in a really meaningful way. And I hope I'm proven correct in time. In terms of the game, there's not really too much more to talk about. As I said, it could have been a whole bunch more if if some of the finishes had been a little bit better. I think about the one where Mateta hit I think it was either post or bar or a combination of both from a sort of drilled cross from Elise. And the follow-up from Mitchell was, let's just say it was on his right foot, so we'll let him off. Wow, wasn't great. There was a lovely turn and shot again from Mateta, received the ball to feet from the left-hand side, spun and smashed it, and it was just that little bit too central. Really good save, but ultimately it was, Ben Killip, I think it is, in goal for Hartlepool, and just he had a very, very good second half in particular. Otherwise, that game, it would have been 4 or 5 and no one really would have argued otherwise. But ultimately, it was a very, very strong performance and one I was extremely happy to witness.
Conversion rate 9%, Chris. Is that good enough?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, yes, because they got 0%. Yeah. There you go. We won the game. We did what we needed to do. But yeah, 21 attempts at goal, wasn't it? And you can't be too upset when you get 21 shots at goal.
Fair play to that keeper. He made some solid saves. He really did. So yeah,
exactly. But yeah, it was excellent stuff. The only slight, I don't even want to call it a block, because we talked about it the other week and mentioned it pre-show that we'd already talked about this. So I don't want to say too much about it or discuss it really in any meaningful way. But Eze was subbed about the 70-minute mark. I didn't seem massively happy about it, but he wasn't particularly effective in the game. He had a couple of moments of a couple of shots where he was perhaps a little bit unlucky that they were charged down. And I was watching him quite intently because I'm just waiting to see, flashes of the player that we saw before his injury. Because you've always got that worry in the back of your mind that, how much damage has that injury actually done? Looking at him, I just think it's momentum and and just games and match fitness.
He does seem to run across the pitch a bit like Johnny Williams used to, rather than going forward. But maybe he prefers playing in the middle, so the first thing he does is get into the middle and then think about moving forward. I don't know.
It's a bit of that. I mean, playing off the left, last season under Hodgson, it was often, he would come in off the left and go central. But you're probably right in a lot of ways in that what's changed is he's not really going past people at the moment. And I just think that's all about that rhythm of playing football. It's all about the momentum of building up a bit of form. That hesitancy from an injury that he's, was a bad one. And you're not quite sure when you get back. You've got to there's got to be a point where you're just like, oh, I am back. I can do all the things that I did before. And I don't think he's too far off it, but it's probably going to be another 10, 15 games. Caragh, I noticed you're off mute. I don't know if you wanted to comment on that, and then I'll take you through Vieira's comments.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think it's that thing of he's got to get to a point where he trusts his body again, hasn't he? Because there's always going to be something in the back of his mind where he's protecting that not happening again or whatever. And I just think psychologically that can take a while to get over. And especially if you're a young player and that's your, you haven't had that many injuries so far. I think just learning to get past that point where you're worried about it happening again, that's got to take quite a while. Always reminds me of when your hands are really cold and your brain tells your hand to do something and it slows it takes about half a second longer than it normally does. And I think that must be what it's like. They're working at such quick speeds that coming back from such a bad injury, there's got to be that little bit of lag that's just happening, and it will just take time. And he's just got to, it must be really frustrating for him, but hopefully he can keep working at it, and at some point soon it's going to click. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, and Vieira very much saying similar, talking about the fact that he's a player who always wants to be on the pitch and he's never happy if he's not starting or if he's having to come off the pitch. But Vieira seeing that as a positive, and then he said we always said we needed to be patient with him. He'll play games where he'll play 90 minutes. He'll play games where he comes from the bench. He'll play some good games and he'll have some bad games. But this is part of the process of him finding his level. They work with him really hard and really well. And keep demanding of it They keep being really demanding of him as well. But they says that they'll be patient. But the main thing is he says that the confidence is coming back, and that's really good for us as a football club and a team. And that's really what it's all about, just building that belief, building that confidence back up again. So there you go. Just thought that would be worth mentioning for sure. So we'll move on from the goal now, from the game now, and a word from our sponsor. Cupid works hard in February, but our friends at Manscaped are working harder than ever to ensure your Valentine's Day is one to remember. Don't turn this day of romance into Independence Day this year and get in control with their Performance Package 4.0, which includes their signature Lawnmower 4.0. This February, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code BOTN for 20% off and free shipping. Contrary to popular belief, love is not blind when you can't see past the love jungle. So, there we go. It's well worth getting involved in Manscaped. They're here supporting us again, so we'd love you to support them by taking advantage of this wonderful offer. I have had many products from Manscaped in the past, and I've got to be honest, and I don't mind sharing this with you. My partner says to me on many occasions, she says, hey, Chris, aren't you sponsored by Manscaped? At which point I say, yeah, they regularly sponsor the podcast. And she says, didn't they send you some of the stuff to try out? And I say, yeah, they did. And then she just stares at me until I realise what she's hinting at. You see, everybody likes it. Everybody likes what it delivers. So, I get my hints. I get my hints that it's time to break out the lawnmower and tidy up.
I'm just a little bit perturbed because I'm looking at the advert as you're reading it, Chris, because obviously we can't memorise it. And the thing that jumped out at me at first was nicks on your delicate nuts,
Well,
which
there
was
you
a bit
go.
worrying.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I add bits myself. Just pep me up. Anyway, listen. I'm talking about a product that I genuinely do use myself, and it is exactly as described, and I can't recommend it more. It's always nice to advertise things that you do really care about. So the performance package is the bundle on offer. 20, but any of their products, 20% off and free shipping. So inside that performance package 4.0, you do find the Lawnmower 4.0. It's an electric trimmer. It's designed to trim hair on loose skin. The skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate nuts. And well, it might encourage nicks on delicate. Anyway, let's not get into that right now, depending on your interpretation of the word nicks. Thank you, Nick. But it does come equipped with a 4000K LED spotlight that's bright enough to shine a light into your true love this year. And I think we can get a bit philosophical at the end of this advert. Confucius says, education breeds confidence. So it's time you get educated on the ultimate grooming routine for all of your areas of romance this year. Do you like that? Oh, it's nice.
I'm just not quite past the performance package.
No, it's hard to get past that.
I've got to big up the aftershave. The aftershave is lush. And also, I noticed that package includes the weed whacker. Now, I've been on to Mikey that we get a weed whacker because I'm of the age where I have got hairy nostrils, and I want a weed whacker to sort those out. So if you're listening, Mr. Manscaped.
Yeah, I think Ian Manscaped is the guy who's in charge.
He's lucky he had that name for the product.
It really is. It's such a coincidence that he started his company. I believe it's a coincidence anyway. But yeah, the weed whacker's in this package. It's a nose and ear hair trimmer. You have got the aforementioned refined cologne, which again I have myself as well. Smells lovely, like quite a citrusy, fresh smell. And don't forget as well that you get the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner products. Again, I can personally recommend. So Manscaped has you covered this Valentine's Day. Get yourself the gift that you and your date will both appreciate. Manscaped.com for our exclusive offer of 20% off plus free shipping with the code BOTN. Right. Hello, Caragh.
Go on.
I just feel like there's a really good opportunity for a segue here.
Right.
Which is, talking of performance packages, Macca's back in training.
Hey. There you go. Absolutely seamless. And MacArthur, yes, is back in training. Let's talk about it. Caragh, have we missed him?
Yeah, although I'm still not past performance packages. No, massively. Just without, indescribably. I think we've obviously had to do a lot of chopping and changing with people out of injury and people on international duty and stuff. And I think we've done really well in that period, much better than we would have done in previous seasons. But I don't think there's a single Palace fan out there that isn't just counting down the minutes and seconds till we see him back on the pitch. Having said that, we will have to be a bit patient because obviously he is coming back from an injury, so we don't want to be like expecting him to come back to full form. But even just his presence on the field, just shouting at people, I think is going to be great.
Yeah, it's just that box to box energy. I mean, who does he come in for though, Nick? You think about Shake's coming back. Will Hughes has been brilliant since he stepped in there. Jeff is still getting a look in there at times.
Yeah.
Luca's around. What's your midfield three if Macca's available for selection?
It's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? I really couldn't tell you. We used to go mad about McGedley, didn't we? And think how lucky we were, and we've just come on so much. Look, he's not gonna be in there straight away. But for me, Kouyaté, I didn't realise how much we missed him until he wasn't there. One of those players, do you know what I mean? and MacArthur was kind of filling that role before, but we did seem a lot stronger with him in there. Hughes has taken that mantle very, very well, I think. I still think Eze should be further in the middle, maybe playing. I know they don't use a number 10 anymore so much in this modern day and age of football, but the good thing is we've got players that can mix it up a bit, play in slightly different positions, and we've got them as options on the bench when perhaps we had a weaker bench. So, although we'd like to see them all on the pitch at once, we know that's impossible, but we know we've got the quality there if it's needed to change things up. And it keeps them on their toes.
Indeed it does. And, we mentioned Kouyaté in there, and obviously we've got, got Ayew and Zaha back from AFCON duty as well. And you start to look else.
What Zaha, though? That's the thing. We've kind of shown that we can do it without him now. Is that going to be the spur for him to actually think, I've got to force my way in?
We're drawn to the end of the show, but careful. You know how much I love Wilfried Zaha.
No, I do know how much you love him, but he is he's got to be on top form to get his place.
He has, but he is coming back to enhance this team. I still think he walks back into that side, playing left-hand side, and we're the richer for it, I have to say. But it's fantastic if you've got a fully firing Olise on one side, you've got Eze pushing to start, you've got, for me, a midfield of MacArthur, Hughes, and Gallagher sitting there anchoring that, and you start looking at that, whether you've got Mateta or Benteke there at the moment, because Mateta is kicking on nicely, that starts to look really dangerous. And of course, Edouard can play in the middle with those players around him too. So I'm absolutely salivating right now at the prospect.
Do you start Wilf, Chris?
Yeah, God, yeah, every time, and I always will.
Would you start him straight away, fresh back?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's, to me, he's still our best player, and people will start questioning that, and we'll start looking at, even saying, well, what about Gallagher? Gallagher's having more of an impact, blah 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 blah. But to me, Wilfried Zaha is still our best player and the best player I've ever seen in a Palace shirt.
You're gushing. You're really gushing.
I just love Wilf. I've just missed the guy. But anyway, that's me. But look, it's the squad options are coming back. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what team starts on Wednesday when we play Norwich, and obviously the preview team won't be recording a preview of that game on the day it happens. So we've got about 2 minutes really. So start with you, Nick. Are we going to win?
Drinking Goose Island IPA, not to Terence there. Norwich, they've done well in their previous few games. Can we see them winning 4 league games in a row? Hopefully not. Does the competition for places mean that our players are going to really perform? I think so, yes. Nick, it's always a mixed bag against Norwich, isn't it? But
I just noticed you interviewed yourself for a short period there, and
I did.
What have I told you about that? That's very odd, very, very odd behaviour.
Efficiency.
Yes, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Won't you? No, I won't. Okay, that's good then.
Caragh, what team do you go with? What changes? What are you thinking?
It's so hard to tell without knowing how people are doing in training. We can have our ideals of like, right, let's get Macca straight back in there, Wilf straight back in there, but we've got no idea what they're doing. Wilf, I'm a little bit nervous about putting straight back in because I think he didn't play that much football while he was away, and there is going to be, that adjustment period to get back. I don't think it will take him that long, but I probably wouldn't start him if I'm honest. But we're just going to want our strongest team possible, aren't we? I think what we don't want to do is go off the back of having enjoyed that game on Saturday, thinking that we can waltz into Norwich and kind of get away with the same things we got away with. So just whoever is our strongest team that's fit at that point, we just want to see them get out. And really selfishly, I'm going to be teetotal because I'm driving, so it just had better be a good game. Otherwise, that's going to be quite boring.
I don't think under Patrick Vieira we would waltz into Norwich. I think it'd be more of a cha-cha-cha, but that's just me.
Bit of a samba, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't like you two encouraging each other. For me, it's you got to be. Look, I would say it's dangerous to drop anyone who's been playing well just because another player comes back. But I do think there's a space ready and waiting left side of the front three for Wilfried Zaha if he's fit. Like you say, he hasn't played much football, and he has been on a break since he got back. Mark Bright has made that clear in the commentary today earlier on. So at the day of recording, which is Monday, of course. So look, I think Zaha comes back into that side. I think pick the best midfield three that you can find, and if you can find a way of not picking Jeffrey Schlupp as a central midfielder, I'll be happy. If you want to play him, forward or left side, I'm happier with that. But still not having him as a central midfielder for more than 10 or 15 minutes at the end of a game, if I'm perfectly honest. So anyway, but other than that, I think it's a game we have to be very, very, very respectful of our opposition because, as Nick has quite rightly pointed out, really good results of late. I think it's only a blip against West Ham, and they've won 4 out of 5, maybe something like that,
including their cup game against Wolves. What you got to remember though, Chris, games coming thick and fast in February. I've never seen a February so jam packed for the game. So we got to bear in mind that we don't want to knacker the squad out in the first game. We've got another game on the weekend, so hopefully,
we've got to see it as an opportunity for more. It's a big opportunity for 3 points, 3 important points. We're doing fine, but arguably the points total we have right now is lower than it should be, and I'd like to start seeing performances reflected a little bit more in points, because at the moment it's just comparable to what we saw in the last couple of years, just a lot less boring. So I'd like to see us kick on a little bit. But anyway, I think other than taking Lucy's question from Facebook, you've called it face ache on here, Nick. Again, showing your age. So Lucy said that it's a win, but considering we're the Premier League side, it could have been better. Definitely some hard work to put in for the second. Stoke won't be easy, and I think that's a really good point as well. We will have to play better than that when we play Stoke for sure, and we certainly won't get away with missing chances as regularly as we did against Hartlepool, against better opposition, if we want to continue that cup run. So thank you for that, Luce. There's some 4-word reviews there, Nick. Do you want to give us a flavour of them?
Yeah, hang on, let's just scroll down.
I mean,
good, must score more, at Cav Paul, hats off to Hartlepool. And they're all similar. I've scrolled down to, my computer's too far away from my microphone. Hang on.
Okay, I don't know what's happened to Nick now. I've now lost audio.
Has he been abducted by aliens? That sounds.
I think someone just thought, oh, he's struggling here, and just took him.
Forward now, the mouse isn't working. 4-word reviews.
Oh.
Deeply disturbing, but I think the perfect place to end the show. So thank you for listening to the show, and thank you to everybody who got in touch. And as I say, we say this every time, but it's always true. We read everything that we get, but we can't use everything we get, especially if we're kind of rushing through a show like we did today. But it does help us create the content for the show and give us a bit of a theme. So it's always appreciated, and keep all your contact coming. Preview team will be with us in the week. They'll look back at the Norwich game and then ahead to Brentford at the weekend. As ever, there's plenty more content for you across all of our social accounts, and a wealth of live and recorded shows for you over on YouTube, including instant match reaction and a chance to get involved yourself. So find us on everything by searching Back of the Nest, like, subscribe, and be merry. Obviously, leave us positive reviews in the relevant places. It helps us share the knowledge of the show. I'm not going to use the word algorithms that Nick has left in there from last week. Anyway,
Leif Anderson's forehead, job done, well played.
Thanks, Nick. Just in time. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Until next time, come on, you Palace.